magic to hide. I have scaled ideas, buried a few, learn which ones survive. I built brands before algorithms, before funnels had names. Watch people confuse attention with equity, so lame. This is not opinion. Got results and recognition. You are here, you are not browsing. You are paying attention.
Hello, hello. You know what time it is. It's Tuesday, so it's time to do what? A little lunchtime learning with moi. Sometimes we call it Teaching Tuesday. Sometimes we call it How to Tuesday, but either way, it's Tuesday, and I'm here to share with you guys. My name is Stephanie D. McKenzie. I'm a fractional brand and marketing leader, brand strategist, award-winning marketer, TEDx speaker, Amazon best-selling author, and a whole lot of other things. Anyway, today's show I'm really excited about, and can I just tell y'all that there's something about messages that show up at the right time. I'll be honest with you guys and say that, Monday morning, I was about to fall face first into an existential crisis. And I got a notification from LinkedIn that said, oh, somebody has tagged you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Y'all, I opened up the post and I opened up the notification and I saw the post. And it was one of my former students, because remember, I used to be a college professor, and they were extolling my virtue on international. Like, the question was, is there a woman that has impacted your life positively? And he chose me, and he made a big to-do about me. And, it just came in and it's such the right time, because I was literally about to go face first into an existential crisis. And there's something about that on-time message. I don't know how many of you have experienced that moment when you just need to hear something, and you did, and it shifted the trajectory of that moment, of your day, of your life, all of the things. And so, gosh, thank you to that former student who is now knee-deep in multimedia, doing all of the things. I couldn't be happier for you. But this week, it is Women's History Month, y'all. And, of course, leave it to me to do it a little differently. All right. I want to talk to you today about women who are making history. And this started because I watched the Miss Cleo documentary. I don't know if it's new. I don't know if it's old, but I did watch it. And I think we need to talk about it. Now, for those of you who may have been born in the 2000s, you may not know a little bit about a woman named Miss Cleo, who was the face and the spokesperson for something called the Psychic Friends. I'm going to look at my notes. Psychic Readers Network, also known as PRN. Now, there was a time, for those of us who remember, when hotlines became the thing. You could call people and talk to them in party lines and get tips and yada, yada, yada. And then came the psychics. The psychic lines, where you could get insight on your life, and they called it money or honey. They either wanted to know about their money, their career, or their honey, their love life. And this woman, Miss Cleo, showed up on the scene with her signature, call me now for your free psychic reading. And, according to her friends in the documentary, I never really thought about Miss Cleo being a scam, a fraud. I never thought about those things. I thought, this is really interesting, right? I thought this was really interesting. And I thought the marketing was chef's kiss. And so, now, of course, that was 1990-ish. I spent a whole lot of time in the 90s. It's like somebody took like a collective DeLorean and like put us all in there, and now we're all going back to the future. But Miss Cleo showed up on the scene. She had a calming presence. She was talking to people live, and she was the front man. She was the face of the Psychic Readers Network. There was also a Psychic Friends Network, which is why I had to look over here at my notes. And so, no harm, no foul. This is for entertainment purposes only. Even now, if you look at some of the psychic hotlines, California Psychics and oh gosh, I just spiritual whatever guides or whatever it is, they're all going to tell you this is for entertainment purposes only. Where the Psychic Readers Network fell into problems, and Miss Cleo with them, is that that whole free psychic reading wasn't exactly happening. And by wasn't exactly happening, I mean people were being billed exorbitant amounts of money. And at some point, you can only do that so many times until people get mad. I don't know about you. I don't like people playing with my money. It really upsets me a lot. I don't like it. So Miss Cleo, think about this, okay? You know, as founders and leaders, you ultimately become the face of your organization until you decide otherwise, until advertising dictates differently, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the difference between you as the founder and possibly leader in this organization is that you may have a say-so in the back end of the operations and how it works and why people are, you know, being told to call in for a free psychic reading, yet they're getting bills for hundreds, sometimes even thousands of dollars. You don't have that say. You don't have that say so if you're Miss Cleo. You're just an employee. But as the face, she is bearing the brunt of the failures of this organization. That happens. That happens so often. And people say, you know, I look at people all the time, and, you know, I used to tell clients, like, especially clients that have to put teams together and put those teams on the street, so to speak, like there are teams that are away from them. I'm like, at the end of the day, they're not going to come after, you know, Judy over on the East location. They're going to come for your organization. That's who they're going to come for. And so it begs, you know, it begs the logic of, gosh, if I'm the face of this organization, how much say so do I have in the operations of it? Well, she had none. But you, founder leader, you often have a lot. And as I told a client one time, much to her dismay, much to her being disappointed, much to her being annoyed with me because I was competent in the work that I do. Um, Culture is not created in a vacuum, because the thing this person was saying very ignorantly so is that, oh, morale is down, I'm going to bring in somebody and let's have a team lunch. Fix this. Team morale is affected by every time you, leader, and you, other leader slash flunky to the leader, make decisions that affect people negatively. You're not going to fix that with a trip to Subway. It's not. You know, and I can only imagine what the morale was like at the Psychic Readers Network, but even more so as this thing goes on, right? I'm watching this documentary and I'm seeing that at the height of the scandal, she was named in a lawsuit. And my business marketing brain is like, how? She's not in control. Now, eventually, team, no spoilers, but eventually that would change. But this company ultimately billed about $1 billion in the 90s, early 2000s, possibly. $1 billion. And ultimately their fine was a half a million that they had to 500 million, I'm sorry, that they had to pay back. But this woman, this Miss Cleo, who is a real person, had her entire life negatively impacted because she aligned herself with an organization that was not on the up and up. Now, a further lesson for founders is that you got to watch who you collaborate with. You really have to watch who you collaborate with. Because if these people are not on the up and up, thank you so much. If these people are not on the up and up, they will take you down with them, because the people who were running the Psychic Readers Network, they had millions and millions of dollars. These people were multimillionaires. They're multimillionaires. And they were shielded from the public's perception. But Miss Cleo wasn't. Miss Cleo wasn't. And she spent years of her life. And this is why, you know, organizational morale, psychological safety, all of these things are so important, because she spent the rest of her life. She passed away, I believe, in 2016, which I knew she had passed away. And some of you already knew that as well. But she spent the rest of her life being impacted by that negatively. She even spent time as a recluse, didn't even want to be outside. Because while these multimillionaires had done their doing, right? They had done their dirt, they were able to get away from it. But she was not. Eventually, she began to reclaim her life and find happiness. But the friends that were around her said she was totally gifted. And it's a shame because not only was she just the front person, I don't believe that she ever really got to use her gift as a psychic reader. She just became the face. In fact, they pressed her to turn Miss Cleo into a character. You got to watch who you align with. You got to watch who you align with and how you align with them. That's just the reality of the situation. Speaking of which, speaking of people you should align with, let me remind you that today's live stream is brought to you by Tractionista.com. Founded by Amanda P. Harris, with all of these amazing initials behind her name. She's a project manager. She's a Six Sigma. She does all of these amazing things to help you get real traction, not just likes and comments, but traction that's going to build your business and your bottom line. Make sure that you get your free audit at Tractionista.com. So listen, I want to encourage you, as you're watching this with me, to think about how you're moving as a founder. And I'll be honest with you, if you're moving shady, and a lot of times that's what happens if you're like on the hustle. But if you're moving shady, stop. If you're moving with shady people, one of the biggest mistakes I've made at different times in my career is being aligned with shady people. Now, sometimes I didn't even know it. Sometimes they were friends. To me, they were friends I had known for years. But in business, they were shady, shady. You've heard me talk about taking over my father's company and my uncles being super shady, except for one. I have one uncle that I adore, and hopefully he knows who he is. But me and his daughter happen to be double cousins, which is so fascinating. She's my cousin on my mom's side as well as my dad's side, and he's my favorite uncle to this day. But the rest of them can go straight to a very hot place, because at the end of the day, what I know about the way I want to move and the things I want to be known for, because remember, brand is about expectation. I don't want to be aligned with people, organizations, initiatives, anything that is not operating above board. I don't want that. And I was almost, forehead deep in some nonsense just 4 months ago. And it took time for me to learn the depths, the leechy depths that I was in. But once I learned, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. On top of being mistreated, on top of being maligned, on top of being so many things, harassed, gossiped about, bullied. Yeah, why would I want to be in alignment with an organization that treats its people that way? Would you? Some of you are aligned with them now, and you just don't know it. That's all I'm going to say about that. So yeah, I watched the Miss Cleo documentary, and just some really salient points around collaboration, protection, because she actually had no protection. I think she really, I do understand that there are some things that are very contrived and very, dare I say, not true possibly about her heritage. But I don't think in this particular position, I don't believe that this woman had nefarious or malicious intent. I think she wanted to use her gift and put it out in the world, and somebody weaponized her passion, pimped her passion, as I say, pimped her passion against her. And ultimately, she was never convicted, but she became permanently associated with a scandal. The multimillionaires are still out there being multimillionaires. And no, I'm not going to vilify multimillionaires. But what I will say is they left her scarred and marked. They left her scarred and marked, and that's never okay. Woo! So much, so much, so much. I'm going to tell you all the truth. One of the challenges that I have when I look at business owners, especially those who are really public facing, is that I always wonder sometimes, and again, we've got to get past the point where somebody who doesn't agree or who doesn't sing your praises is a hater. Because truthfully, I'm looking at a situation through a whole different lens. As a relationship coach, some say I'm a business coach. I somewhat rail against that because a lot of the business coaches I know are trash. But as a relationship coach, a life coach, a business coach, I have different lenses that I put things through. And one of the things that really gave me pause in the last few years was Slutty Vegan. Slutty Vegan gave me pause, y'all. I'm sorry. Y'all can call it Black excellence. I don't care what you call it. But watching this meteoric rise where you go from, one location to 12 in about, let me see. I got to check my notes because I know it was a lot. I want to say it was a couple of years, was something that I was like, it kind of made me say, huh, interesting, because I don't know much about her. I do feel that perhaps based on what's happening now, that she just didn't have a great command of how to run a business. And one of the things that I've talked about often with founders is the switch that flips from worker to owner, or to worker to founder. And a lot of times, like I said, I don't know much about her background, and I don't think it was relevant to this. What's relevant to this is she's spending a lot of time explaining her bankruptcy. And I will be honest with you and tell you, only people who don't have financial means fear bankruptcy. There's different chapters. Now, sometimes the judge is the one that has to decide which chapter you get. So, you want to have a really great attorney, but bankruptcy isn't the end of the world. Like some people are like, oh my God, bankruptcy. But what I do feel is challenging is that there are allegations that people have not been paid. There are allegations that there were operational lapses and gaps. And growing too quickly, leads me into this conversation around this word that I hate, scale. I don't know when people decided that scale was the business buzzword of 2025 and now 2026. But new businesses don't scale. You scale when you understand what it is that you do well. Okay? That's what scaling is for. Otherwise, you're just growing, you're expanding. Sometimes you're in a period of experimentation. Stop using the word scale. I need you to really stop using the word scale because it's not accurate. And so if you're in a situation with your business and you don't know what works yet, you're over here trying to grow, 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 grow. Now, I will say this, there are some times when you have to test markets, and that's okay. But everybody has to stop stunning for the gram and the chat and the book and everything. Talking about I'm scaling a business that's been open 6 months, that's been open a year. No, you're not. Unless you are independently wealthy, or you have ridiculously wealthy friends, or you have a DeLorean that you jumped in and you went back to the future, and you have, and you understand operations like at its highest tier, which most people do not. And then, of course, when you start having teams and people, that's a whole different level. And I can be honest and tell you that most people do not have the fortitude to lead other people. It's a skill, and oftentimes it's a gift. Oftentimes it's a gift. Because developing that level of empathy, about developing the capability to speak life to somebody who is within your organization, who may not have the skills to do what they're doing, or they may not have the will to do what they're doing, yet you speak life to them. Maybe you redirect them, you hold space for them. That's why, we have a class called Coaching for Leaders, which I think is so poignant, because it helps, no matter what organization you're in, it can help you relate to your team members. But nevertheless, I digress, because the inability to hold that neutral, kind, empathetic space for people will always come back to you. I feel honestly that Slutty Vegan grew too fast, and Pinky Gold is spending way too much time talking about the bankruptcy. I'm like, why are you defending what you're doing for your business? Who cares? It's like people announcing their LLC. Who cares? It's business formation 101. Who cares? That's like literally the extent of announcing your DBA. It's just business. People relax. Everything. It's so interesting because it's like, oh my God, it's such an amateur move. People announcing trademarks and LLCs and DBAs and yes, there are people that announce DBAs. And I'm like, who cares? All you're telling me is that you've changed how your taxes are processed. For some of you, you're telling me that you don't have a CPA because I know for a fact that some of you need to be LLCs with an S Corp designation, but nobody can tell you anything. And that's kind of my point around Black entrepreneurship. And if you're not Black and you're watching this, feel free to hang out. But I'm going to say this and I'm going to say it because I feel it this way. Part of my problem with Black entrepreneurs, yes, I'm a Black entrepreneur, but the ones that I've encountered in the modern age, nobody can tell you anything. You know everything. You have a problem for every solution. And what I truly believe is that it is deeply steeped in a need to be right. Many of you are first generation. You're the oldest in your family. You've been programmed and socialized to carry things on your back. You have no other choice but to be right. But in foundership, business ownership, entrepreneurship, you have no idea what you're doing. And then when people say, hey, hi, you about that, you're like, oh, you just a hater. You don't see the vision. Da, 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 da. No, baby, I see the vision. Okay. I also see the cliff you're about to walk off of. Would you prefer me let you walk off of the cliff and just say, yay, vision? There are some people who would literally prefer you to allow their house to burn down instead of telling them, hey, that's on fire. Oh, you don't like my house? You such a hater. No, 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 didn't say anything about the house. That's on fire. Oh, I can't believe, you can't tell everybody everything. I'm a huge proponent of keeping your vision like you keep pregnancy. These days people are 2 minutes pregnant and they're all on Facebook. And I'm like, back in the day, people waited till the second trimester to open their mouths because a new pregnancy is fragile. But now people are like, hey, we're 2 days pregnant. Yeah, can't wait till the gender reveal. I'm like, okay. But anyway, I would really, I would really like us to see a world where we allow entrepreneurs to learn and grow at a pace that makes sense. It's just as laudable, it's just as praiseworthy for you to have one location as it is for you to have 10. Especially if that one location is running well, team members feel valued, the environment is positive. Yay, bravo for your one location. Want to test new locations? Do that. Maybe do a pop-up. So one group that did this well, I believe, is Trill Burgers. Trill Burgers did a lot of popping up before they, squatted down in a location. Lots of pop-ups, really got you familiar with the brand, really allowed them to test different markets, how people responded to different things. I don't get paid to shout them out. I'm just saying I feel like they did that well, especially in a market like Houston, where sprawl is an issue. We are a very big city. And so I think, them doing the pop-ups and various things allowed them to get information because they could have just said, he's famous, let's go, 5 locations. First of all, Houston people are very fickle. I'm just going to be honest. They're very fickle. Doing your research, like the unsung superpower of successful founders and entrepreneurs is doing your research. Got to do your research, man. You can't just keep popping out with new locations. Can't just keep popping out with new this and popping out with new that because it's exciting. And I get that. The creative aspect of it is exciting. I get that part. But it's got to be both exciting as well as fruitful. Research is my best friend. I love data. Data makes me happy. A lot of times clients will be like, oh, well, can we do this? And I'm like, let me go get some data. I am not egotistical enough or egotistical to believe that what I think is all there is. And I want to encourage that, right? I want to encourage us to give people the opportunity to be and learn and to grow at a pace that actually makes sense. And as far as not paying your employees, let me tell you something. As a business owner, I'm not proud of it, but I have had seasons, I call them lean seasons, where, the money did not come in the way I thought it would. At one time I had a payroll, whew, ravenous payroll. And the money didn't come in the way that I thought it would be, that I thought it would. And really, honestly, all you can do at that point is communicate. I think things get dicey when you don't communicate. Um, and I did what I could, right? But people are less apt to take your communication if you're still living high on the hog and they didn't get paid. Just being honest. These glasses love to slide down my face, you know? And I think that's where the energy probably needs to go. If Pinky Cole needs to put her energy anywhere, it's in righting that wrong. If it did occur, again, it's alleged. I don't know. If you know, feel free to drop that in the comments, right? But allegedly, there are team members, employees that have not received payment. And so, if you're going to put your energy anywhere, if that's the truth, put your energy into fixing that. Put your energy into fixing that. Um, I think that's important. You know, people will always remember how you cared for them. Even if you were going through a struggle yourself, they'll still remember how you cared for them. And I think as humans, we owe each other care. And we also owe each other credit. And so, last but not least, in my Women Making History series, I want to talk about the illustrious Mel Robbins, who I must admit, up until recently, had been one of my thought leadership muses. Those of you who know me personally know that sometimes I'm like, hey, I am Brown Brene Robbins. That's what I am. That's goals. Brene Brown, but I say Brown Brene for obvious reasons, and then Robbins for Mel Robbins. And I truly feel that, and I've said this in private conversations, I'll say it publicly now. This is exposure season. This is exposure season. And to see that this individual who has millions and millions of dollars at her disposal, right? There's no reason for her to not credit someone if the let them theory did not originate from her, which we know it didn't. Now, there are some questions about where it came from, but overall, listen, there are ideologies that exist in what's known as the public domain. They don't belong to anybody, right? But then there are creative works that clearly belong to somebody else. And while it's great for you to be inspired by them, one of the things I try very hard to do is to give credit where credit is due. If somebody says something really cool and I add it to my lexicon, I'm going to give them credit. Case in point, if you mess with my head, you mess with my bread. I don't remember who said that. I remember that I didn't say that. And so anytime I use it, I say, I didn't say it. I don't remember who did. And then that's that. It takes this, it doesn't diminish. If the truth of the matter is that Mel Robbins has been taking not just let them theory, but other concepts that have built her brand, that have built her business, and they originate from other people. And those people have gotten nor credit, nor licensure, or nor check, nor payment. That's problematic. And it brings us back into conversations around the individuals who have been exposed in the self-help world, from Deepak Chopra all the way to Jay Shetty. Now, for those of us who are intuitive and empathic like I am, a lot of those people we never got on board with. I was never like Jay Shetty. I was kind of like Jay Shetty. Sometimes you see the things, the things. It just is what it is. But it's super disheartening because truthfully, not only does Mel Robbins have a platform that she could elevate the originator of this work, but she may have chosen not to. And so, her critics now say that The Let Them theory closely resembles a poem and social media movement circulated years earlier by writer Cassie Phillips. She claims, I think Mel Robbins said in interviews that she got this from her daughter, yada, 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 just passing the buck. Okay. And that's fine. It's about who gets to market first. But I'm sorry, I'm going to use the I word. You can have some integrity about this thing. Like if you know it's not yours, and perhaps you can't find where it came from, say that. But I'm tired of people standing on business for things that aren't theirs. That's not yours. You didn't create that. That's not cool. And coaches, especially when I was knee deep in the coaching industry, coaches do it all the time. I know coaches who had other coaches steal entire copy, steal entire courses. They like, oh, and what did they do? They went into their vault, into their platform, and they just started, copying and pasting and copying and pasting. I've seen it. And the unfortunate thing is that it often happens to coaches, courtesy of coaches. Am I saying that's the only time it happens? No, but I've seen the instance happen more with coaches that wear my skin suit being victimized by coaches. I've seen it. I'm sorry. That's what I've witnessed. Well, anyway, guys, listen, there are women making history in the best ways and in the worst ways. I want to shout out those of you who are doing amazing work. I dare not start calling names because I'll be here all day. But, Miss Cleo definitely left her mark on history, and wherever she is dwelling eternally, I hope that there is peace there. Pinky Cole, I've said what I needed to say about her. No shade, no shame. But I think, the energies could go elsewhere. And Mel Robbins, get it together. Just get it together. If you're really doing this, get it together. Get it together. Address it. Make a statement. Do things differently. It's not that serious. And the tee-hee-hee is when you operate in a certain way, in a good way, in a, dare I say, with integrity type of way, it's really easy. It's much easier for you to operate in abundance. It is. There's more peace in that. But, I get it. Sometimes you don't know. But you didn't write it. You didn't create it. You didn't conceive it. So at the end of the day, what I want to say to every founder watching this, right? Just do your due diligence. Like the overall lesson of this, do your due diligence. Be careful who you get into bed with. Be careful how you build. Be careful what you share. Be careful what you build upon. Do your due diligence. Because so many things depend on you being crystal clear about who you are, what you do, whom you're serving, and why you're serving them. Your success is steeped in all of that. It really is. And so, like if no one's told you today, and you're a woman watching this, I'm super proud of you. And I'll say this, if you're a man that loves women in the best way, not in a, JFK way, yeah, I'm proud of you too. But listen, there's an abundance of opportunities out there. There's no need to steal. There's no need to unalive. There's no reason to destroy other people. There's enough out there. Only scarcity mindsets believe that there's just enough. And let me be the first to tell you, if you operate like that, if you operate as if there's more than enough everything, then you're not worried. You're not worried. You're at peace, because what is for you is for you. And your only responsibility is to do your part. That's it. That's all. Anyway, my name is Stephanie D. McKenzie. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me with a little lunchtime learning. If I can serve and support you in any way, I'm happy to do so. Check out the link in my bio somewhere over here around, or go to stephaniedmckenzie.com, or check out the COE, which is our learning platform. So if you want to learn about the things I'm talking about versus get ready for fractional, you can do that too. But nevertheless, thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Have you been on a weight loss journey and the scale just isn't giving you the results you hoped for? Well, meet Thinner, an FDA-registered, all-natural, homeopathic approach that addresses the root causes of how to lose weight and keep it off, especially if hormones are an issue. If you're tired of all of the guesswork and doing it alone, scan the QR code for more info, and let's get you started today.